Okay, welcome to a quick tutorial on how to get from the moon to the Earth using IMFD or interplanetary MFD. So this is the method I'm going to show you is a relatively easy method that will get you from the moon to the Earth and allows you to line up um, in exactly the right orbit around the Earth for landing at whichever base you choose. Okay, so we're gonna go to our MFD and we're gonna go to interplanetary MFD. And if you don't have this MFD, you could probably download it from the Orbiter website. I think the guy who made it, the original website he was hosting it on, is offline. So I'll put a link in the video description if you want to download it from me as well. So let's boot up the MFD, and then yeah, it will look like this. If you're not familiar, there is a button here you should click to go to the main menu, and then there's a lot of different configuration pages and options here, but the only ones you should be worried about are the orbit eject program, the course program, and the base approach program, and optionally the orbital program as well. So right now we're on the moon, landed at Brighton Beach, and we want to go to the Earth, right? So what you want to do is open up the course program, and then we're going to select planet approach. This is the program you always want to use when you go from a moon to the reference planet, or the planet the moon is orbiting around. So let's say you want to go from Europa to Jupiter, or from the moon to the Earth. It doesn't matter, you would choose this program. You can't use a target intercept like you would usually do for this kind of situation. It won't work. You have to use a planet approach. So if we boot this up, you'll get a menu looking like this, and then it's important that we set our target, source and reference correctly before we start configuring this. So the target should be the equator. I mean, our target technically is the Earth, but if you put Earth here, it won't work. So I don't know why, but this should be equator or ecliptic. Then the source is the moon, obviously, and the reference should be the Earth. So the way you configure this is you press the page button, which will show you some different options here. You press source and you set source as moon, and then it will automatically set the reference as the Earth. So this is now set up correctly. Then there is a bunch of options here. So there is equatorial inclination, perigee altitude, ejection time, and perigee time optimization. And so here you want to put, I guess, the inclination you want to end up at the Earth, which is for Cape Canaveral approximately 28 degrees. And then also you want to set a perigee altitude. So this is the altitude we'll have at the perigee of the Earth, which should be a parking orbit probably, so it should be around 150k. And it doesn't really matter what you put here, because we're going to use a course correction where we're going to fine-tune this. So I mean, it doesn't really matter what you put here. The more important number to configure is this. This is the perigee optimization time, and here you can set how fast you want to get to the Earth. So currently it's 469 kiloseconds, which is like 6 or 7 days or something, but that's a bit slow, so we're going to put it to 200k, which is slightly over 2 days. That's somewhat faster than the time it took the Apollo astronauts to get back, but we have plenty of fuel, so we can do that. Alright, so now we have set up our planet approach. Then what you want to do is go back to the menu and go to the orbit eject program. And this is the actual program that calculates and performs the burn we are going to perform to get on this course. So if you open it up, you can choose a number of different data sources. We want to use course because that's what we just set up in the course program. And then you want to set the time till ejection, so the time until we're gonna execute, set it to 0 because we want to leave right now, right? Then there is a number here, delta V, which tells you how much delta V or how much fuel or delta velocity you're gonna need or burn. And if you go to page, there is a button here, auto burn, which will start executing the burn. It's a good practice to, before you hit auto burn, to press this burn vector button to check where the burn vector is pointing. And as you can see, burn vector is pointing away from the surface of the moon, which is good because we don't want to go into or crash into the moon. So one thing to think about is if you use this method, this direct trans-Earth injection method that I'm showing you, if you're on the dark side of the moon, this burn vector will point into the moon. So if you hit auto burn, you will go into the moon and crash. And that's not what you want to do. So in that case, you want to use a surface launch to get you in a parking orbit around the moon in the right inclination before executing the trans-Earth injection burn. But I'm not going to go into this now. I'm just going to show you how to use this direct method. Okay, so this looks good. So what we want to do now is get off the surface of the moon. Let's get some altitude using hover, and then we can just hit the auto burn. Yeah, there's two different views, but doesn't matter. Both button will work. So if we go to the cockpit, we can start the APU, turn on the HUD, and use some hover to get off the surface. As you can see, there we go. You can raise the landing gear. Okay, and once you get some altitude, this is more than enough. You can turn off the hover, close the hover doors, and then we're gonna hit auto burn. And what this will do is while you're sort of in free fall, it will rotate and start burning, as you can see here. So there we go. And now we're on our way to Earth, which should be over there. Yeah. Yep. So this looks good. Let's accelerate a bit.
Information. APU running.
And that's it. We're now on our way to Earth. And there we go. Now, the next thing you want to do is, once you have executed this burn, you want to open another IMFD, go to orbit, and we want to monitor this number while we're cruising towards the Earth. Because as soon as we leave the sphere of influence of the moon, which is when this number turns red, so this is the sort of relative strength of the moon's gravity on us, effect. Once this turns red, or once we leave the sphere of influence of the moon, we're going to use another program here to fine-tune where we end up at the Earth. Alright, so we're going to use some more time acceleration now. There we go. Leaving the moon behind. Yeah, so now we are outside the sphere of influence of the moon. And one way to visualize this is to use this map program. This is an optional step, you don't have to do this, but you can center our as on ourselves. Let's see, display, and then SOI, and let's see, how does this work? Yeah, so this is the moon, and this is the Earth, this is the orbit of the moon, and this is the sphere of influence of the moon, according to IMFD. According to this, we're already outside of it. We can go a bit further. Yeah. So now we're outside of the sphere of influence of the moon. I mean, you don't need to use this map program. It's just another way to show you this sphere of influence thing. You can just look at this number. Yeah. So we'll go back to the main menu. So now what we want to do is go to base approach while we're cruising, and here we're gonna set up our orbit to get lined up with our base of choice, which is in my case Cape Canaveral. So we're gonna target Cape Canaveral. The source should be ourselves, and the reference should be the Earth, right? And then we're gonna put approach for orbit inserts. That's the program we want. So there's a bunch of numbers and options here again. So longitude and latitude are the coordinates of the base we want to land, which are set automatically if you specify it here. Then altitude. This is the altitude of the orbit, or perigee, I guess, that we want to get. So we want a parking orbit of around 150 kilometers. Then we want to put this number, which is the number of orbits to go around before you want to re-enter, or before you want to line up. And let's put this to 1. So we could go around the Earth once before we start the re-entry orbit. And then you can specify if you want to come in prograde or retrograde. You can check. Sometimes it saves a bit of time or a bit of fuel, or delta V, if you go prograde versus retrograde. In this case, we'll just go retrograde because this thing is spacing out a bit. And we have a delta V of 371. So let's execute this. And this we can put to the Earth. Actually, Yep. And now we are on our way. So the Earth is over here. Let me rotate this thing a bit. So you can see the Earth. And let's continue cruising. And as you can see, this number is creeping up a bit because we're still sort of close to the moon and not so close to the Earth. So there is some numerical precision error or something going on here. So we have to make some course corrections. Yeah, looks about right. So now we're roughly halfway to the Earth in terms of time. Can perform another course correction. Let's actually, let's do it. So let's continue onwards. Let's keep the Earth in our sights, just for fun. Yep. Okay, now we are at getting a bit closer again. And as you can see, we've drifted a bit, so we're going to do another course correction. This time I'm going to just do this with RCS thrusters. I always get confused. Yeah, so you can do this, as you can see, you can do this stuff manually if you like, which I'm doing now with RCS, linear RCS. But you can also hit the auto burn button and let let this thing take care of it. And yeah, that's, I think, close enough. Alright, so yeah, let's continue on.
Rotation. Translation.
Yeah. Getting closer and closer now. Five, four, three. Okay. As you can see, we are getting quite close to our perigee. We're gonna perform a final course correction because we have drifted a bit. And as you'll see, as we perform this course correction, this perigee altitude will go up to the specified number of 150 kilometers. Yeah, so let's go to burn factor again.
Translation.
Go to translation RCS. And we're gonna do this with the RCS. On our numpad. You can actually use this with a joystick, but it's very confusing. I like to use the numpad instead for this. Yep. Alright. So that's it. So now what you want to do is get a bit closer still to the perigee. As you can see, this number is exactly 150k as we wanted it to be. Yeah. So what you want to do now is brake or burn retrograde to slow us down so we are in a nice circular orbit around the Earth. And one way you can do this is by using, well, just hit retrograde and burn at the right time, but you can also use a program inside IMFD which is called Orbital, which automates this process for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to menu, Orbital, and it will say circularize. It will give you a delta V and a burn time. And you want to hit auto burn here at the moment where this burn time is approximately twice as large as the perigee time here, so you get a nice even burn around the perigee. So now it's 160, and we have, so we should have around 90 here, 80 I guess. Yeah, so I think this is close enough, so we can hit auto burn. Kind of a shame we're in the dark now, but you get the idea. So let's accelerate this a bit. And that's it. We can now close IMFD. We're done with this this program, or this IMFD, and yeah, we're now in a nice circular orbit back around the Earth. And the nice thing about this base approach method is that you don't just get back to the Earth, but you get back exactly in the orbit aligned for re-entry to whichever base you want. And I'll demonstrate this as follows. So if I go now to map, select the Earth as a reference, and hit orbit plane here, what you can see is that we're almost we're going retrograde, right? So which way? Yeah, we're going this way. So you can see that this line is almost exactly overhead of the base we want to land, right? And since we put this this number of orbits to 1, if we go around one more orbit, the Earth will have rotated such that this base is exactly underneath this green line, or our orbit, which is perfect if we want to do a re-entry. And another way to see this is if we go to base sync MFD, which is another very helpful MFD for syncing orbits to land at a base. And if we put Cape Canaveral here, you will see that on our second orbit, which basically starts once we pass this, you see that we're just 190 meters off from the base, which is absolutely nothing. So if I show you, if we go orbit a bit more, yeah. So now it's just a couple kilometers. So we don't even have to do any burn normal plus or minus to change our inclination. We can just orbit and perform our the orbit burn on the other side. So I'll show you that as well. So let's go around a bit. As you can see, this line is slowly shifting downwards, or the map is shifting upwards technically, I guess, but yeah, so by the time we get to this point, this line will be exactly over the base. And now we are half an orbit away from the base, as you can see here. So this is approximately the time you want to start the orbit burn, which we can do by going retrograde. And just perform a quick burn to get our perigee altitude to around minus 50 kilometers. I like to use, which gives us an okay re-entry angle. I mean, I'm not like, I haven't really mastered like re-entering an orbit and deorbiting and re-entering this XR2 Raven Star yet, to be honest. I mean, you could use quite different values here probably, and it would still work. I just like to use this minus 50. It gives a okay re-entry angle. And yeah, that's it. I think now we are ready to start a re-entry directly to Cape Canaveral, and I'm not going to show the actual re-entry or anything. That you have to do yourself, but I mean, this is a method to easily get back from the moon to the Earth without first orbiting the moon. You just compute the burn vector, use some hover and just execute and burn. Then you use this base approach program to get exactly this orbit you want over the base. Once you are outside of the sphere of influence of the moon, you can use a couple course corrections. Then once you get to the perigee altitude or perigee of your orbit towards the Earth, you use this orbital program or just burn retrograde to circularize. You go around and you use your deorbit burn, and you are lined up for a nice re-entry to your base. So I hope it was kind of clear what I did, and it was helpful. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I can try answering them. So thanks for watching.